when a poor student named Aaron agreed to marry Eleanor, a 71-year-old millionaire widow. Whispers spread across the city. People assumed it was desperation, a foolish trade of youth for wealth. But Aaron's eyes told another story. He had struggled all his life, working nights, studying days, just to survive. Eleanor, with silver hair and eyes sharp as glass, promised him not love, but companionship and security. Yet deep inside, Aaron wondered if fate had led him here for something more than money, something his heart couldn't yet name. The wedding was small but extravagant, filled with gold and crystal. Yet Aaron felt like a guest in his own life. Relatives smirked, reporters scribbled, and Eleanor held his hand firmly, as if reminding the world she was still powerful. He noticed her strength, not in her riches, but in her defiance of everyone's judgment. When she whispered, "Ignore their eyes. Boy, they never fed you when you were hungry." Aaron realized she saw through him better than most his age ever had. The first nights were strange. Eleanor insisted he stay in the east wing of her mansion, while she remained in her private chambers. Aaron thought he was a prisoner of wealth, trapped in silence. But every morning she would invite him for breakfast, asking him about his studies, his dreams, his worries. She didn't treat him as a trophy, but as a person whose mind mattered. Slowly he began to look past her wrinkles and see the woman who had built an empire from scratch, brick by brick. 7 days into their marriage, Aaron woke up to find Eleanor gone from the dining room. Servants whispered nervously, refusing to meet his gaze. When he followed the trail of silence, he found her in the library, hunched over old photographs and letters. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered names he didn't recognize. She didn't hear him at first, and when she finally looked up, Aaron saw not a millionaire, not a powerful widow, but a lonely woman whose heart still bled from wounds decades old. That night she confessed the truth. Eleanor had lost her only son 40 years ago, a child stolen by circumstance and betrayal. She had married thrice, each husband drawn to her fortune, none staying for love. Her wealth had become a shield, but inside she was starving for someone who didn't see her as a bank account. "Once you are the first man," she said softly, or looked at me without calculation in your eyes. "That's why I chose you." Her words shook Aaron more than her millions ever could. The shocking part came when she unlocked a hidden safe behind the fireplace and handed Aaron an envelope. Inside was a deed to a vast estate, not in his name, but in his late father's. Confused, Aaron asked why. Eleanor revealed that his father had once worked for her company, had been loyal, and had died protecting her assets during a time of betrayal. "The father saved my empire, and no one ever rewarded him. You are his blood. That is why I found you, why I married you, to finish what destiny left incomplete." Aaron felt the ground vanish beneath him. He had believed he married Eleanor out of necessity, a poor student's escape from hunger, but now he realized she had chosen him, not for his youth, but for his lineage, for a debt unpaid by history. He wasn't her toy, he was her redemption. His chest tightened as questions and emotions collided, anger, gratitude, confusion, awe. For the first time he understood why his soul had felt strangely tied to her from the beginning. Over the following days, Eleanor trained him not as a husband, but as an heir. She made him read files, attend meetings, and watch how she commanded empires with words sharper than any sword. She told him that time was short for her but long for him, and that wealth without wisdom would destroy him. Aaron no longer felt like a pawn. He was being forged into something greater, a living continuation of both his father's loyalty and her legacy. The city still mocked him. They called him a gold digger, a boy toy, a scandal waiting to rot. But Aaron didn't flinch anymore. When he looked at Eleanor, he saw not age but strength, not wrinkles but scars of survival. And when she looked at him, he felt as if his father's hand rested on his shoulder, guiding him forward. Their marriage, strange to the world, had become a bridge between two broken stories, healing both in ways money could never measure. On the 7th night, after the shocking revelation, Aaron stood alone in the mansion's garden, staring at the stars. He realized he wasn't trapped, he was chosen. What had begun as survival had turned into destiny. He whispered into the wind, "Father, I will not waste this chance." Behind him, Eleanor's frail steps echoed softly, and when she placed her hand on his, he didn't feel the touch of an old woman, but the bond of two souls rewriting their fate together. The following morning, Aaron found Eleanor staring out of the grand window of the east wing, her Shah. No wrap tightly around her thin frame. She seemed smaller, weaker than before, and for the first time Aaron noticed how fragile she truly was. Yet her voice carried strength when she said, "Power is not in wealth, boy, but in the choices we make when everyone watches. Remember that." Her words etched themselves into his mind like scripture. Over breakfast, Eleanor summoned her legal advisors, shocking Aaron when she ordered her will to be rewritten in front of him. She handed Aaron the seat beside her, ignoring the murmurs of her staff, and declared, "Boy is no stranger. He carries loyalty in his blood. He shall inherit what I built, for he will not squander it." The advisors looked uneasy, but Eleanor's gaze silenced them all. Aaron sat frozen, unable to process what was happening. He had entered this marriage believing he was the weaker one, the dependent. Now, in a matter of days, he was being entrusted with responsibilities that billionaires fought decades to gain. He wanted to protest, to say he wasn't ready, but Eleanor touched his hand gently and whispered, "Your father wasn't ready either, yet he stood when it mattered most. So will you." Later that evening, while studying stacks of business records, Aaron stumbled upon documents exposing betrayals by Eleanor's former allies, people who had tried to ruin her in her youth. Among them was a name he recognized, a wealthy tycoon who had denied Aaron scholarship years ago, laughing at his poverty. The realization hit him like thunder. His suffering, his struggles, had been silently tied to Eleanor's enemies long before he married her. Eleanor found him trembling over the papers. She walked slowly, her cane tapping against the marble floor, and said, "Now you understand. Fate does not weave lightly, Aaron. Our lives were bound long before this marriage. You are not just my heir. You are the weapon destiny shaped against those who wronged us both." Aaron nodded, his chest tightening with a new kind of fire. For the first time, he believed he was born for this path. The city's media turned vicious, spreading headlines about Eleanor's and boy husband inheriting everything. Reporters camped outside the mansion, and distant relatives began sending threats of lawsuits. Aaron saw the greed and cruelty of the world unveiled before him, but Eleanor simply laughed. "Oh, let them bark," she said. "Wolves do not fear the noise of dogs." Her defiance gave Aaron courage to stand firm against the storm. One night, Eleanor collapsed in the hallway. Aaron rushed to her side, his hands shaking as he lifted her frail body. Doctors arrived, and after hours of examinations, they told him her heart was failing. Time was slipping away. Aaron refused to leave her bedside, gripping her hand tightly as machines beeped steadily. "I don't want your empire, Eleanor," he whispered, tears in his eyes. "I just want you to stay." She smiled weakly and replied, "Then honor me by living, not by mourning." In the days that followed, Eleanor dictated her memoirs, with Aaron writing down every word. She revealed stories of battles fought, betrayals endured, and sacrifices hidden from the world. Each tale made Aaron realize her wealth was not luck but blood and sweat, carved out of storms that would have crushed most people, and each page she spoke seemed like a torch she was passing to him. One evening, while turning the pages of her life, she suddenly grabbed his wrist and whispered something that shattered him. "Aaron, I once searched for my lost son in orphanages. I never found him, but when I saw you, I felt that same longing. You were never just my husband. In you, I see the son life denied me." Aaron broke down, holding her tightly, no longer seeing her as a wife, but as the mother he had never truly had. Eleanor's health deteriorated rapidly. The mansion became silent, servants walking with hushed steps, as if the walls themselves mourned in advance. Aaron stayed with her every night, sleeping in a chair beside her bed. She no longer spoke much, only squeezed his hand as if pouring her last strength into him. And when she finally whispered, "I am proud of you," Aaron knew the inevitable was near. The night Eleanor passed, rain poured over the city like heaven itself was crying. Aaron held her hand until it grew cold, tears streaming down his face as silence swallowed the room. The world had taken so much from him, but this loss cut deeper than any wound. She had given him not just wealth, but identity, strength, and belonging. He whispered, "Thank you, Mother," before kissing her forehead for the last time. The funeral was a grand affair, attended by leaders, tycoons, and critics alike. Whispers filled the air, mocking Aaron, doubting his ability to lead. But when he stood at the podium, his voice didn't tremble. "Powell saw her as a millionaire," he declared. "But I saw her as a warrior. She gave me a life when I had none, and I promise, in her name, I will build a world where no poor boy is ever mocked for dreaming. The crowd fell silent, stunned by the fire in his tone. After the funeral, Eleanor's will was revealed. As promised, Aaron inherited the empire, but she had left more than wealth. She left letters for him to open each year, containing advice, warnings, and encouragement. The first letter read, "Do not let greed poison you. Wealth can either chain you or free you. Choose freedom, my boy." Tears filled Aaron's eyes as he clutched the letter against his chest. Enemies quickly rose, attempting to seize control from the boy inheritor. Business rivals, Eleanor's bitter relatives, and political snakes circled him like vultures. But Aaron fought with the resilience of a man shaped by hunger and loss. He made bold decisions, surprising even seasoned tycoons. Every victory was not his alone. It was Eleanor's wisdom living through him. Months later, Aaron stood in the boardroom of Eleanor's empire, dressed in a suit that no longer felt borrowed. The same tycoon who had once mocked him, the one who had denied his scholarship, now sat across the table, forced to negotiate under Aaron's leadership. The look in the man's eyes, shock, disbelief, fear, was the sweetest justice Aaron had ever tasted. Outside the empire, Aaron secretly funded schools, orphanages, and shelters. He walked into the lives of poor children as someone who understood their hunger, their loneliness. Reporters tried to twist his charity into image building, but Aaron didn't care. He knew who he was, a boy who once had nothing, now giving everything back. Eleanor's legacy was not in riches but in kindness, and he carried it forward. Late one night, Aaron sat again in the mansion's library, the same place where Eleanor once wept over lost memories. This time, he smiled through his tears. He wasn't lonely anymore. He had her voice in the letters, her strength in his veins, and his father's loyalty guiding him. The mansion, once too large for him, now felt alive with purpose. But destiny wasn't done with him. One letter revealed the existence of an old friend of his father's, someone Eleanor had once trusted but lost contact with. The letter urged Aaron to find this man, for he held secrets that could either strengthen or shatter the empire. With a heart both heavy and determined, Aaron prepared for a new journey, knowing the story wasn't ending but evolving. He looked at his reflection in the glass window, seeing no longer a poor student, no longer a boy mocked by the world, but a man forged by love, pain, and destiny. "I will not fail you," he whispered to both Eleanor and his father's memory. In his eyes burned the fire of a leader, but also the gentleness of the son Eleanor had always longed for. And so, what began as a scandalous marriage between a young student and an elderly millionaire became a tale that silenced the city. The poor boy they mocked had risen, not just as a wealthy man, but as a symbol of hope. Eleanor's empire lived on, but so did her spirit, through Aaron, who would forever remember that his true inheritance was not gold, but love.